the world.
You're not
Mr.
in a good
Brown.
position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having
not
cards.
playing cards.
Right now, you don't.
Very
You're playing
serious,
cards.
Mr. President.
You're
I'm
playing
very
cards.
serious.
You're
I'm
gambling
the
with the
president
lives
in
of
war.
millions of people. You're
You-
gambling with World War III.
what do you
You're
speak
gambling
about?
with
What do you
World
speak
War
about?
III. And
You-
what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country. That's
with
back
all
to you.
respect to your
Far
country.
more than a lot of people said
very
they
respect.
should have.
Have you said thank you once this
A lot
entire
of
meeting?
times.
No, in this
Even
entire meeting, have
today.
you said thank
Even
you?
today.
You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
Donald Trump's presidency has quickly become the "I told you so" presidency. And not just for the MAGA voters who thought Donald Trump would make their eggs gas and rent cheaper, which not only hasn't happened, but we've actually seen the opposite effect. But it's also the "I told." So presidency for Donald Trump. We told you, Donald, that your plans would fail, that they would be massively unpopular, that you would create economic hardship, which is exactly what's happened. And the best example, or I guess the worst example of that, comes in Donald Trump's stupid trade war. Yes, the tariffs. The tariffs that are backfiring more and more every day. So much so that Donald Trump reached deep into his bag of anger and vengeance and decided to attack Barack Obama for them. Yes, President Obama is who Donald Trump is going after. It was a mess. We're going to get into it. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already, and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me now. Before we get into what Trump had to say about President Obama, I think it's important to give a little bit of context into why he is so upset as of lately. And I think these two clips do it best.
The first thing on tariffs is to emphasize that our government, and indeed all of Team Canada, premiers, business leaders, community leaders, are focused on one thing: making sure that come Tuesday and for the weeks that follow, there are no tariffs imposed on Canada. The tariffs that the president speaks of for next week are centered around the fentanyl crisis that they're facing in the United States, but that we are also facing in Canada. And for months now, I've been emphasizing that less than 1% of the fentanyl that arrives in the United States comes from Canada. But we know that even that 1% or less than 1% should be reduced, which is why we've invested $1.3 billion in strengthening our border capacities with Black Hawk helicopters, with drones, with 10,000 people patrolling our borders and keeping Canadians and Americans safe. And we will continue, as we are this week, with ministers and heads of agencies, including the Commissioner of the RCMP and the head of the CBSA and our fentanyl czar down in Washington to demonstrate that this is an issue that we should be working together on, and that Canada is not the source of problems for the United States. We will continue to do that work and do everything necessary to avoid these tariffs coming in. But like I said, if on Tuesday there are unjustified tariffs brought in on Canada, we will have an immediate and extremely strong response, as Canadians expect.
On tariffs, you just said with China.
Who are you with?
I'm with The Independent.
Oh, that's good.
It's on tariffs. You just said with China. Thank you. We charge them. We charge them as in we charge China, but the tariffs are paid eventually by American importers and consumers.
No, they're not. No, I think they're paid for by the country. But, you know, look, we can get into that. I put a lot of tariffs on in my first term, and we made tremendous amounts of progress because of those tariffs.
So, to address the Trudeau of it all, first, I've said this a couple of times. Doesn't he sound much more like the American president than Donald Trump ever has at any point in either of his 2 terms. Justin Trudeau is talking about how bad he feels for the American who will be impacted by this stupid trade war. He is supporting our ally in Ukraine. He is supporting liberal democracy around the world, while Donald Trump abandons our allies. So, Putin blows a kiss at him, or something, I don't know. Donald, I thought you already had your new love affair with Elon. Can you not just deal with that horrible individual? Can you pick one horrible individual to just love and just stay over, whatever? But clearly in the second trip, in the second clip, we see Trump is still obsessed with this lie about tariffs. And I think he has to latch onto it because they're about to really blow up in his face. As we can see with this post right here, Trump wrote in a lengthy Truth Social post, "Drugs are still pouring into our country from Mexico and Canada at very high and unacceptable levels. A large percentage of these drugs, much of them in the form of fentanyl, are made in and supplied by China. More than 100,000 people died last year due to the distribution of these dangerous and highly addictive poisons. Millions of people have died over the last 2 decades. The families of these victims are devastated. And in many instances, virtually destroyed. We cannot allow this scourge to continue to harm the USA, and therefore, until it stops or is seriously limited, the proposed tariff scheduled to go into effect on March 4th will indeed go into effect, is scheduled. China will likewise be charged an additional 10% tariff on that date. The April 2nd reciprocal tariff date will remain in full force and effect. Thank you for your attention to this matter. God bless America. So remember when the tariffs were supposed to go into effect like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and then Trump pulled back on that because he knew it was going to be an economic disaster? Well, we're still teasing the tariffs. There's still a possibility. I don't know what fake concession he's going to pretend he got to take them away. But again, he's trying to distract from failures on all fronts, and it's why he decided he'd attack President Obama right here.
Please. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yes. Thank you.
Hi, Natasha Clark from LBC. Mr. President, you've said you're working on a new trade deal with Britain, which we of course welcome. President Obama once said Britain was at the back of the queue for that trade deal. Where are we now? When do you think we're going to see that? And Prime Minister, the BBC has today admitted serious flaws over the recent Gaza coverage, suggestions of payments made to people linked to Hamas. Does the BBC still have your trust? Thank you.
Well, they didn't do well with President Obama. He'd never got a lot of things done, and he didn't get a trade deal done that was of any importance or magnitude. We've had great discussions on trade, and I think we're going to have a deal done rather quickly as it can be done. We're going to have something, I think, rather quickly. We expect to do that. Okay?
Now, I don't exactly know what nonsense lie Trump is trying to push about President Obama's trade deals, but if I can remember correctly, I was a little young during his presidency. I don't think Barack Obama ever caused massive inflation through a completely stupid trade war with our allies through tariffs. He didn't understand and couldn't define did that. It did not happen. He did not do that. So the criticism feels a little off, feels like we should do some reflection before we attribute it elsewhere. But that's not really in Donald Trump now, is it? But he knows. I think at this point, when he starts lashing out, things are not going too great. You don't need me to tell you. Look at the cold hard numbers which Rachel Maddow pointed out right here.
But now, though, again, 1 month in, that same poll, Quinnipiac, it's flipped. He has gone from +3 in his first week in office to -4 now. That is a quick turnaround for a poll that initially looked okay for him less than a month ago. It looked okay for him. Now it looks terrible for him. Why is that? Well, it's because Trump's been doing stuff. And what the data shows is that almost every single thing he has done is soundly and clearly, and in some cases, wildly unpopular with the American people. Again, just look at that Quinnipiac poll that shows Trump underwater right now. More Americans disapproving of him than approving of him, right? He was +3 right after he got sworn in. Now he's -4. You can see in the internals of that poll a little bit about what's driving that. Do you approve of Trump's handling of foreign policy? No. Do you approve of Trump's handling of trade? No. Do you approve of Trump's handling of the federal workforce? No. Do you approve of Trump's handling of the Russia-Ukraine conflict? No. Do you approve of Trump's handling of the Israel-Hamas conflict? No, 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 no. Do you approve of Trump's handling of the economy? No. No, the American public does not approve of his handling of the economy. And stick a pin in that one, because that one's interesting for a number of reasons, and we will come back to that. But you take a look at the broad areas of responsibility a U.S. president has. And on all these broad points, the American public just says, no, Donald Trump, we do not like the way you are handling any of these issues. And then when you drill down, not just to, you drill down from the broad categories of things to instead the stuff he wants you to focus on, the very specific things he's done, his signature specific issues and his signature gambits thus far since he's been in office, the stuff that he thinks makes him look great. Well, those things are even worse than the broad categories. On those things, the stuff he's doing is catastrophically unpopular. I mean, look at this. This is from the same poll. Do you like Donald Trump's genius idea for Gaza? By a 40-point margin, the American people are against Trump on that. How about DEI, which they've tried to turn into a slur? Do you think policies focused on increasing diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace are a good thing? The American people say, yes, actually. Yes, actually, we do think that's a good thing. By a 15-point margin, Americans are for that. How about tariffs? Donald Trump's favorite thing, right? Do you think Donald Trump's tariffs will help the U.S. economy or hurt it? By an 11-point margin, the American people say his tariffs will hurt the American economy, not help. How about Vladimir Putin? All right, this is one of the most important things that Trump has done since being back in office. You know, Trump sitting there in the Oval Office telling reporters, yes, I trust Vladimir Putin, as he throws out 70-plus years of our post-World War II alliances and decides that now we're going to be allied against Europe and with Russia, all because he trusts Putin so much. Well, Quinnipiac polled on that specifically. Quote, do you think the United States should trust Russian President Vladimir Putin or not? 81% of the American public says not. Not. But Trump does. The same national polling shows the American public do not approve of Elon Musk. Individually, Elon Musk's approval is minus 12. But everybody else in his government is underwater. The American public has apparently seen enough already to be against, to be disapproving more than approving of not just Elon Musk by a mile, but Trump as well. And also J.D. Vance is underwater, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the brainworm podcast guy who's now U.S. Health Secretary, and Tulsi Gabbard, who really is the Director of National Intelligence, believe it or not, and Kash Patel, who was confirmed today as FBI Director. All of them are underwater in the new polling.
Every step he takes is tragic. Nothing he does is magic. The polls reflect it. People are pissed. These decisions are historically unpopular, was asked just the other day, say, about consumer sentiment dropping for the first time. And I don't know how long we have seen the highest disapproval of the economy, not just currently, but the direction of it. Something Trump said he was going to be changing, and something that on election day and couple weeks after, before we really got the full force of the Trump agenda, people feel kind of positive about and gotten rid of all of that goodwill like that. Now, no one ever should have believed Donald Trump would be able to help the economy. That was where we should have started. But the fact that he's been able to evaporate his honeymoon period in a couple of weeks, it's kind of commendable. It's almost an impressive amount of incompetency, but that is what we have come to expect from this president. It is our job to call it out. That's what we're going to be doing on show every single day, if you want to support that. As always, you can hit that subscribe button, you can leave a like on this video, and if you're stuck around at the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.